I'm Schaefer, this is Crash Course Visual Thinking, and today we're talking about Coca-Cola and Campbell's chicken noodle soup. Now you may be wondering, besides the fact that they both start with the letter C, or that they both contain liquid, or that both these foods are tasty, what does a Coca-Cola bottle have to do with a Campbell's soup can? And more importantly, what does all of this have to do with visual communication design? Remember that designers use principles and elements to share messages. Messages can be declarative, informative, or questioning. Messages can have different appeals to viewers, such as appeal to luxury or logic. The message of a design may even change the way you feel, behave, or think about a subject. So what do these two specimens have to say? Let's start with a brief history of how these 3D designs came to be. In 1915, Coca-Cola challenged the Root Glass Company to design a bottle that would set them apart from other brands. The initial design on the right was shaped like a cocoa bean. Coca-Cola liked the uniqueness of the design, but requested that it would be slimmed down to be easier to hold, and also probably because it would be closer to what consumers expected a bottle to look like. The refinement of this commercial design is a great example of the Maya principle. The current Coca-Cola bottle is different enough to stand out, but familiar enough to sell. The Campbell soup can is a commercial specimen as well. Its label has changed very gradually since the first red and white can in 1898. The company has been especially careful to preserve its look after Warhol's work in 1962. Because it has looked the same for so long, Campbell's soup can appeals to familiarity and nostalgia. In 2021, Campbell's redesigned their soup cans for the first time in over 50 years, but it still looks similar to the 1970 version. Without further ado, let's take a closer look at the principles and elements of these objects. The Coca-Cola can is balanced because it's perfectly symmetrical on both sides. It also has rhythm in the ridges of the glass, which is shown in this artwork by Andy Warhol, who is a prominent figure in the history of both specimens. Emphasis is created by the ridges in the glass and also the shape of the bottle, pointing towards the logo in the center, with the most emphasis on the brand. Proportion is also used, as we discussed earlier, to make it easier to hold in the hand. There's the most movement in the logo, the way the letters appear to be flowing from left to right, and again, there's also movement with the ridges in the glass. Contrast is effective in the logo, with or without color. It is very readable and noticeable on the bottle. Unity is also apparent in the way that red shows up in both the bottle cap and the label. Next, we have the Campbell soup can. You can see its balance having white text on a red background compared to the red text on a white background being split evenly across the can. There's also rhythm in the bottom, having a pattern that goes across, gives you something to look at that goes through the can. With emphasis and proportion, these two go hand in hand because the can is very similar to other cans of soup, and so the label is really what sets this one apart. There's the most emphasis on the brand right at the top in the biggest font. Next, you notice the type of soup and the word soup. And also right in the middle, you have this award that was won by Campbell's in 1900 in Paris, and they have probably had that on their design for years. Movement, just like the Coca-Cola bottle, is in their logo with the letters that seem to flow into each other, one after the next. The logo also has contrasts, with the drop shadow providing additional contrast between the red and white, and Unity having white elements in the upper section and red in the lower section makes it feel cohesive, as well as having gold showing throughout. And remember, everything in this video could show up on your exam, so make sure you're paying attention. Next, we have the elements. First, we're looking at the lines in the bottle. As we've discussed, they go up and down and form to the contour of the bottle. But even without the lines, just the shape and the silhouette of the bottle is very recognizable, which is great for branding because this has been used in many Coca-Cola advertisements, and you know exactly what brand it is without any words. And again, the form was inspired by a cocoa bean, and even though that's been refined and slimmed down, it's still there and it adds meaning. Um, and of course, since this is a 3D design, it needs to have space on the inside to hold the soda, and it needs to be able to be stored efficiently. And this design has been successful in both of those. With color, we have red and white, and also the color of the soda has a little bit of a red tint to it that plays off of the red branding. And the value is most apparent with the shadows in glass. So it's going to look different in different places, but it adds to the contour of the bottle that has been designed taking after that cocoa bean. Next, with the Campbell soup can, the most obvious line in this design is right down the middle, again showing that award. And this shape is a icon of a flower. It's traditionally French, and it also symbolizes royalty. So that adds a little bit of meaning right at the bottom there too. And here we have our form and space. Similar to the Coca-Cola bottle, it needs to be able to be stored on the shelves in a grocery store. But what's different is that the form of the can itself does not set it apart from other cans, it's just the label. And next, looking at color, Campbell's is also red and white like Coca-Cola, but they also have gold. And with both of these designs, red and white show that this brand is American, and white tends to stand for purity, while red gets people excited about things and it's very noticeable. But even without the color, again, you can see that there's enough contrast and everything is very readable and bold. So overall, all of these elements and principles tell you different things about the product. So in both of these, we have the brand is one of the biggest things that the designer wants you to read. You have that they are American, that they are nice enough to be associated with royalty, that they are healthy, that they are iconic, recognizable, and different. And all of these play a role in how you think about these objects, whether you realize it or not. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you do well on your exams and remember to keep studying.